The number one reason to get an associate is you want to start changing your procedure mix. You want to become a specialist within your practice, okay? And we're going to dive into that a little bit later. We've been misled to believe that dentistry, more specifically the dental business, has to be complicated. Dentistry can be simple, and dentistry should be simple. Hey everybody, welcome back to this week's episode of Dentistry Made Simple. I'm your host, T-Bone, and I'm joined, of course, by Meredith Cooper-Jones. And I can't share big news, but it's okay. But this week, one of the most common questions I get is about, hey, am I ready for an associate? Why would I want an associate? Do I need an associate? And, this week we're going to talk a little bit about why, 3 reasons I think we should be looking at an associate, 3 different reasons. We're going to talk about where to find a good associate, and we're going to talk about the process that I've learned of vetting a good associate. But before we begin, let me turn it over to Meredith, and she's going to give you a little spiel about some reviews of our podcast and a little bit about 3D dentists.
Hi, everyone. I have a review from the Dentistry Made Simple podcast. So if you have not left us a review, please head over to Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcasts, and please leave us a 5-star review. This one says, T-Bone gives you wings. I mean, it's like Red Bull, but it's like T-Bone gives you wings. Every time you think there is no way you can incorporate something into your practice or you have the time, this podcast lays it all out and gives you such confidence just to do so. Best motivator ever. Great job.
I needed to hear that.
I know. Well, if you are looking, before we get into today's episode and, people going on about you being the best motivator, I just need to add that T-Bone does do coaching through our mastermind program. It is with T-Bone and Sully. It's a 6-month coaching program where not only do T-Bone and Sully hold you accountable, but the group of 12 doctors that you're with are wanting to grow their practices in ways that may be different from how the people down the street want to grow their practice. And together they hold you accountable to do the things that you thought dentistry would be and how your practice and the way you want to gain clarity on how you want to run your practice.
Sounds great. Yeah.
Well, let's get into today's episode. That's why they're really here. We're going to talk about, a lot of times people ask, when am I ready for an associate? How do I know I'm ready? Like signs to kind of look for. And then once they figure it out, they kind of ask, what do I do to make sure I have the right associate? So today we're kind of going to talk about that. So we'll start with 3 reasons why someone would want to get an associate. So what are those 3 reasons? And then we'll kind of dig deeper.
Okay, perfect. Thank you, Meredith. There's many reasons to get an associate, okay? There's lots of different reasons. And what I'm going to do is give them to you from my perspective, okay? And to me, the number one reason to get an associate is you want to start changing your procedure mix. You want to become a specialist within your practice. Okay. And we're going to dive into that a little bit later. Number 2 is you're that person that wants to buy time. Maybe, your practice is super busy and you're working 5 days a week and you want to be a better mom, or you want to be a more engaged dad, or you just want to have more free time for hobbies and you just want to buy time. So the second reason to get an associate is to buy time. The third reason to buy an associate, the third reason to add an associate to your practice would be you're literally looking to add capacity and grow your practice. You maybe have an 8-operatory office building, but you're only using 4 operatories and you've kind of maxed that out. And now, you're busy yourself and you just literally want to recreate another version of what you've done and double it into your practice. So we'll kind of talk about those. So the 3 reasons are we want to change your procedure mix that you're doing. You want to buy time off or, time away. And then, or number 3 is you want to add capacity and actually physically grow bigger.
Okay. Well, let's start with procedural shift.
Yeah. So let me define procedural shift first. Okay. And so if you've heard the podcast or you've been listening to me or heard me speak, you hear me talk a lot about the evolution of my practice. Okay. And a challenge I see over and over and over again that I experience myself is, hey, we'll go get all this phenomenal training on how to do fancy dentistry, and we simply don't have the bandwidth or the time to put into place because we're too busy. And we've allowed busyness to substitute good business. And so to me, the procedural shift is, you know what? Hey, I want to continue to work 4 days a week. I still want to be in the dentistry. I'm young, all those things. I don't necessarily need more time off, but I want to create space in my schedule to do more implant cases or to add sleep apnea or to add more orthodontic cases, whether it's clear aligners or brackets or whatever new procedure or whatever procedure that you're already doing that you want to dive in deeper with. And so an associate, what that allows you to do there is it allows you to buy space on your schedule. Somebody has to take care of the filling. Somebody has to take care of the root canal. Somebody has to do the crowns and the simple extraction. Somebody has to do the dentistry that got us there, because, I'm not a big believer in allowing us to get rid of like the general dentistry. We got to build a great general dentistry base, because that's what keeps us through the tough times. And that's what is a good base of referrals and, good word in the community and all of that. It's recession proof in a sense, right? So to me, we don't want to get rid of that, but we want to start buying ourselves space on our schedule to be able to add these new procedures.
Yeah, so I would say that changing the procedural mix would be for dentists who are looking to grow themselves, looking to either grow clinically or to be able to grow with their have room to do consults to get more of the cases that they want to do.
Yeah, so and the consult's a great example. I was talking to one of our masterminders on our coaching call yesterday, and they said that. I said, why are your planning visits down? He goes, well, we don't have a place to put them in the schedule. I go, well, that's why production is going to suffer a month or two from now, because, we have to create that time. Right. And I said, what are you busy doing? Yeah. He goes, well, somebody's got to do the fillings or somebody's got to do this. I go, I totally get it. But what I hear, the example I used to them was, what I hear you saying is, hey, I've got a line of patients that want to spend $10,000 with me, but I'm going to take care of the patients that want to buy a iced coffee from me. $100. Right? And when I say it like that to them, they all snicker and say, well, that's dumb, and that's the whole point of what we talk about is it's not a wrong way of doing it. It's just, there's a different, simpler way of doing things. So other thing with procedure mix, for example, I'll give you an example of what I'm trying to go through right now, the next evolution and transition that I'm trying to do. I'm trying to become a hybrid only or full arch only dentist, where I literally only do full arch implant cases. So for me, we needed to add more dental capacity, or a dentist in my case, so that somebody could take over the single implants from me. So I no longer want to do single implants. So that way I could, change my procedure mix from doing cosmetic cases, every implant that walks in, extraction grafts, or to get to the point where in my current full arch cases, and get to a point where I can only do full arch cases. But yet, we got to service these patients. I mean, that's what brought me here. So I don't want to just let those patients go away. Right. And so in our situation, we uptrained my associate, Dr. Hetrick, and then we brought in a new associate, Dr. Sheikh, so that he can take over what she's going to have to give away or give up to be able to start taking on some of the caseload that I'm transferring to her. So that's changing the procedure mix.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's talk about buying time.
Yeah. Yeah. So buying time, this one is, I went through this one as well, where buying time.
People are scared to do this one a little bit more.
They are.
Until they do it, and then they say, I wish I would have done this so much sooner.
Buying time is a couple of things. I'll give you a couple of different scenarios, because everybody's unique and everybody has a different situation. And
the seasons of life.
Yeah, seasons of life. So for me, I was moving into a season of life where I wanted to drop my kids and pick my kids up from school. And so to drop them at school at 8 o'clock, that means I could start at 9, because I like to get there 15, 20 minutes early, do a debrief, get ready for the day, so I can start at 9. And then I have to pick them up at 3:15, which means I kind of got to be out of the office by 3. So we were moving to transitioning our schedule to where I wanted to work 9 to 3. But we had way more patients, than we could deal with, okay? And so I didn't necessarily need to make more money, or I was willing and able to make less money. So we were able to hire an associate to buy myself time. That's actually why I hired my first associate ever. I hired my first associate for 2 days a week because, if we go back to like 2011, 2012, after we had come through the 2008, 2009 market crash and Great Recession, it was about 2011 or so that, I finally felt confident that things were going to be okay. Mm-hmm. And at that point, I started looking at, hey, you know what? I'm working 4 days a week. I'm speaking, 25 to 30 weekends a year. I'm working till Thursday at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and I'm running to the airport and I'm flying somewhere, getting there Thursday at 10, 11 o'clock at night, and then doing my speaking or training on Friday, and then either flying back Friday night or Friday overnight or Saturday. And it was really starting to take a toll on me physically and mentally. Mm-hmm. And so for me, I needed somebody to add to the practice so I could buy time. Literally, right. I wanted to go to 3 days a week so I could have Thursday as a, catch-up day, travel day, whatever it was. It wasn't even at that point, it wasn't about the children at that point. Yeah. At that point, my kids were, my oldest was 4. I had a 4-year-old, 2-year-old, and essentially a newborn. Yeah. So it really wasn't about the kids at that point. I just wanted to have more, time to focus on this other career I was building. And so we brought in an associate for 2 days a week. And that kind of started the ball rolling. For me, that was like, I always talk about the gateway drug. That was the gateway drug is a 2-day-a-week associate. And I was noticing that, wow, I can get from 2 days to 3 days to 4 days. And that will free me up to kind of go into what I talked about earlier, procedural mix. And that's really when, for me, the ball started rolling. Right. And so, luckily I was in a position where economically I didn't need to make more money. I was comfortable making a little bit less. And, the fear that you talk about is we're worried that we're going to make less. Right. But the truth is I only made less for like 4, 5, 6 months. And then after that, I was producing as much as I was producing more in 3 days.
And then the office was producing more.
Yeah. And then the office went, when I went from 4 days a week to 5 days a week. Because the first associate we brought in was 2 days a week, Thursday and Friday.
Right. And I was going to say that too. A lot of people are closed Fridays, so that's adding a day to the office.
And, that's also about addressing the market. We're in a market now where patients, when I started dentistry in 1999, nobody was open on Fridays. Right. And now so many people are open on Fridays. Yeah, because that's what the customers expect. That's what our patients expect. That's what the market is demanding for us, at least in, metro areas or even, medium-sized cities like Raleigh, Durham, Indianapolis, places like that where there's heavy competition,
And a lot of people have added on Fridays or Thursdays as their day for like surgical days. Yep. And so that's kind of become an add-on that they may not have started with.
Right. And so that's where you become your own associate. Right.
Yeah,
in a
exactly.
sense. So,
Well, we are talking about the 3 reasons to get an associate. So we've done 1 is the changing the procedural mix. 2 would be buying yourself time. So let's talk about our 3rd reason to get an associate.
Yeah. So this one, I don't love this one. It's adding capacity.
Some people need this though.
They do.
Their practice, they need another doctor. Their practice is people are waiting months and months.
Yeah. I disagree with that, and that's okay. And I don't disagree with it like you're wrong. I just disagree with it that I just don't think they're thinking the right way. Right. Yeah, I don't think they're scheduling right. And
I can agree with that.
And really, I was talking to another masterminder this morning, and I said to him, he was talking to me about XYZ, and I said, listen, I get what you're saying, and it's absolutely true. But what you're missing is you don't know what problem you're trying to solve. What is the problem you're trying to solve? And to me, adding capacity is not the problem most of us are trying to solve.
Right.
We're trying to either make more money.
Yeah.
Okay. And you don't have to add capacity to make more money. Mm-hmm. We're trying to be less busy. And you don't need to add another dentist. Because my issue with the concept of adding capacity, going from 4 operatories to 8 operatories and 2 doctors, is that you're just creating more chaos. That's been my experience in seeing people is we create more chaos because now you're just trying to recreate your own practice. So you've created that traditional model of 2 hygienists, 1 dentist, and you're literally just doing a startup, in your practice of another 2 hygienists and another dentist. And it just creates this, to me, this is the most stressful way to add an associate because for me, it would be the most stressful way. Yeah. It's just, you're literally.
There's not a clear path.
If you really think about it, it's what do we complain about in dentistry in our practices? It's people, right? Yeah. And patients, right? It's team members and patients. Too busy. Yeah. That's essentially it's the people that are the problem, right? Yeah. Whether it's team members or patients. Yeah. And when we literally add an associate to double our volume, not necessarily revenue, our volume, all you're doing is adding double the problems, the people and the patient, the patients and the team members, because to add another dentist, 2 hygienists, a couple of assistants, and another front desk person, you're literally doubling your team. And I don't think people oftentimes think through this part of it
I
with the
remember
plan.
one day when you were super frustrated. When I started in the office, I was the 6th team member. And I was probably like a half a team member. I was only working part-time. And when I left working in the office, there was 12 team members. And one day during a monthly meeting, you were super frustrated. And you said, I don't make any more money now than I did when there was only 4 of you.
I said it to everybody, didn't I?
You said, but I know that we're, providing for 6 more families. I love having you each here. But I think that was the thing, is sometimes you have to step back and be like, I thought this would be so much more growth, and really we're just busier, more people, more patients, and running around.
Yeah.
And because that was when we were trying to get a 3rd associate, and we did that a couple times, I think without a clear path.
Yeah, without
And that's
clarity
why
of what we're trying to do.
Associate never really worked well until this last time, where you had a path of people moving up and somebody coming in.
Yeah, funny story, another mastermind, one of our ongoing masterminders, I was talking to him and he's like, our practice has grown, I've added dentists, and yes, I'm making more money, but it's not worth the headache.
Right.
Yeah, and he's like, it didn't change my life. I'm still a pretty simple guy, and all these things. Yeah, I got a little bit more money, and maybe I'll retire a few years earlier.
But not any money. It's the amount of money that's going to change your life.
Yeah, it's not like life-changing money. And again, we're blessed in a profession where we make a lot of money.
And it's easy to be successful.
And relatively easy to be successful.
It's hard to not be successful.
It's difficult to be unsuccessful.
Yes.
Let's not say it's easy to be successful. It's difficult to be unsuccessful.
Okay, well, we've talked about 3 reasons to get an associate. So let's talk about where to find an associate. I think that's a lot of people's next question once they realize that they need one.
Yeah, before we get into that, let's have us talk a little bit about our mastermind. Okay. And the reason I think this is a great place to bring this up is I think the concept of bringing in an associate, am I ready for an associate, really requires good strategic planning. And it's not about planning for the associate. It's really not.
Yeah.
It's about developing a great foundation in your practice, understanding what you want your practice to be, where you want it to go, who you want to emulate, and putting yourself around people who have done it, people have done it faster, people who are going through it, and just being around like-minded individuals. And that's really what the 3D Mastermind is. We allow 12 dentists in. We do it twice a year. It starts every January and every July. And so we have the 3D Mastermind. You work with myself and Dr. Sully Sullivan, and you obviously work with the other dentists. You work with Meredith and some other team members we have. And we really we're kind of, we're not a consultant. That's not what we do. We're not in that business, okay? We're in the business of growing dentists. And really, I always talk about leadership. You got to learn to lead yourself. And really the mastermind is learning to lead yourself so that you can learn to lead your team, who can then learn to lead the patients. And I can't tell you enough about how proud I am of how the mastermind has evolved, the results that we're starting to see. And they all say the same thing. It's like, man, this is nothing earth-shattering or mind-breaking. It's just so simple and so logical, and it really is, something that we can implement into our practice. And we're not trying to change your practice. We're trying to slowly evolve your practice. So, if you want to learn more, reach out to Meredith, reach out to 3d-dentist.com, and apply to be a masterminder, and let's see if what you are. And then, so we're full for 2022. We're starting a new group last week. And then, so now we're starting to take applications for January and July of 2023.
All right, sounds good. Well, let's get back into our episode of where to find associates.
Yes.
This is people's next question.
Yeah, so now we've decided we've got a little bit of clarity of why I want an associate. The next step is, where do I find an associate? This should be quick conversations to me. One is, I lean heavily on my reps. For me, it's my supply rep, it's my implant rep, it's some of my manufacturing reps, because they have an understanding of the culture I am, what I want, what I expect. And, oftentimes reps get to know other people. They get to know other associates. They know before the owner dentist knows that the associate's looking, or that the associate's not happy with this, or the associate took this job because something else wasn't available, but they're really looking for this. So they kind of got a good rep has their kind of ear on the ground of what's going on. So I'm a big believer of reps.
Yeah, I agree with that. I think a smart associate also, before they move to an area, they reach out to that rep in that area to see if they've heard of any doctors looking. So I think it can go both ways of, hearing about doctors looking and hearing about associates.
Yeah, absolutely. If you're an associate looking for a better position, I think it's good to understand this episode. Like, ask the question, why are you bringing an associate into your practice? Is it one of these three things?
Right.
So that you know which one you're in for.
And then when you talk to the associates to see what they want, you're able to ask them what they want and see where, kind of like placing them, you'd see where they'd be a good
matching,
fit.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like Match.com.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Match.com, we have online.
Yes, we have online.
Next place to find them. It's like a dating app.
So online would be like Indeed, ZipRecruiter, all of those places. I don't have a lot of experience personally with all of that. I've always really relied on reps and social media, which we'll talk about here in a moment. But there's always those sites. Indeed, like for me, there's North Carolina Dental Society. Maybe there's a local county society. Generally there's those traditional online areas to job classifieds, basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then, of course, word of mouth.
Yeah, word of mouth, social media. Word of mouth, Dr. Sheikh came to me because he was referred to me by my oral surgeon. Dr. Sheikh was an intern at my surgeon's practice. My surgeon had good feelings about him. And then he put us together and said, hey, maybe this is somebody you should interview. So there's always word of mouth. To me, like word of mouth kind of fits in with reps, right?
Yeah.
And to me, word of mouth is probably the best way to rely on getting associates. And especially if you think about this early enough, that to me is even better. Like, I think we should start looking for an associate before you really need one.
Right.
Like, if you're saying, man, I need an associate now, I'm not saying it's too late, but you're starting late.
Yeah.
And so, I would say that you should start looking before you're ready, because that way you don't feel the pressure to find somebody. And another area that's been very helpful is social media. Putting your practice out there, social media about the type of dentistry that you're doing, the quality of work, because that attracts, especially with young dentists, if somebody's doing great work and they see that attracts people that want to learn from that person, that want to be mentored,
and that willing to move.
That may be willing to move. And then, word of mouth, let them see, let people see the culture of your practice. More and more I'm starting to see practices do videos where they're introducing their team members and they're talking about the office, or have team members talk about the office. Or another great one would be patients talking about the office.
Yeah.
Like imagine imagine being an associate and you're picking between two relatively equal offices, and one is the traditional, hey, let's talk to the doctor, and the other one is, I have a video of patients saying, I've been at this practice for 20 years and it's awesome, and the practice has grown.
And those people are paying you and still saying that.
Yeah. So so that kind of stuff. And listen, I bet you we could get patients from our office to talk about, come join our practice,
Of course.
And so we don't rely on those things. Remember, people buy from people. So at the end of the day, when you're looking for an associate, you're really kind of selling yourself. And you have to do some of those new and uncomfortable things that start allowing you to sell yourself.
Yeah, well, before we get into our next part of reasons to get an associate and where to find them, next we're going to talk about vetting them and, that clear success path. But let's talk a little bit about implants, especially for the ones who are looking to create that procedural mix and shift, how we provide live patient implant training.
So here's one of the things. Look, a lot of people don't know, because I haven't done a great job on the podcast of talking about what we do at 3D Dentists. 3D Dentists, we provide dental education that changes your life. Okay, bottom line, that's really what it does. And we have the most unique environment in dental education, where we have our retreat. It's unbelievable. And honestly, I'll say that we have the best culture, or one of the best, I don't want to say the best, one of the best cultures out there, because we all care. We're all practicing dentists. We're all general dentists. Living out the same things that we're talking about. And one of the areas that we see people that they want to learn is they want to add dental implants to their practice. And there is nothing better than actual clinical training of doing live patient treatment. And there are a few places to do it. Our good friends at Implant Pathway do it out on the West Coast and Raleigh, North Carolina, here at 3D Dentists. And we take a absolute digital approach to doing it. So if you're saying, hey, you know what? I'm ready to take that next step clinically. I want to add dental implants. I want to learn about the digital workflow. I want to actually work on patients where they're provided for me for several days. Look, our tooth replacement therapy, digital implant continuum live patient program is perfect. The second type of implant training that we have are for those dentists that have, hey, I've been doing the onesie twosie implants and now I'm ready to take it to the next step. Whether you want more advanced grafting, whether you want sinus grafting, or whether you're ready to move into full arch cases. or more advanced types of grafting cases. We have live patient programs built around that as well, to where you can come in for a whole week. You can learn how to do overdentures, full arch, all on X types cases, and then actually have patients where you do the surgery so you leave with confidence. So if you're interested in live patient implant treatment, reach out to Meredith or go to 3d-dentist.com, and we'd love to see you here at one of our digital implant continuum programs. I was pretty good at that, huh?
Yeah. Well, you should be. Let's talk about vetting an associate. Like, people will find someone they think is great, and then it just all goes downhill so fast. So where do you think that they can make it clear on what they want and give that success plan?
Yeah. So let's talk about vetting.
Yeah.
I have great experience in this.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think I've known all but maybe 2 of yours.
I think one day you should write them all down.
Yeah.
And just see how many there have been. And I joke about this a lot, but it's wisdom comes from time and experience. And I have learned a lot of wisdom about what makes a good associate for me. I didn't say what makes a good associate.
Yeah.
I said what makes a good associate for me. And to me, that's the first thing that you got to do. You got to write down very clearly what you want. That's why I led this episode with talking about the 3 different reasons I think you should put an associate in. Because depending on what you're trying to do, depends on the type of associate you need.
Right.
Now, for example, if you're looking to increase capacity and double your practice, you're going to need an associate that's probably been out a little bit, that can work multiple columns, that can do 2 hygiene checks and run their own column, all of those things. Okay. If you're looking for an associate that wants to buy time, then you have to start looking, do they have the procedure skills that I do?
Right.
Can they take over some of the dentistry I'm already doing? If you're looking for an associate where you want trying to make a procedural shift, then I'd be looking for somebody who's not looking to do some of the same things I'm doing, which is one of the mistakes I've made in the past, is that we ended up competing with each other in a sense. And I was going to win as the owner of the practice.
Yeah, but then they're not happy.
Right? So that's why I think you got to be very clear about why you're bringing an associate and what a good associate looks like. And to me, it can't be I'm a good producer.
Right.
That's not clear. That's a pipe dream in a sense. I mean, that's some made up nonsense, right?
So first you have to be clear with yourself.
Yeah, you got to be clear with yourself.
Make sure you're clear and communicate that clarity with them.
Yeah, and then, and this is tough sometimes is communicating that clarity to the associate and not trying to, because we're so worried about trying to sell them to come to us.
Right.
And I would argue that start unselling them, you can switch it to me. Start unselling them a little bit, and not in an arrogant way, but I
making sure they're the right fit.
Yeah, I openly tell people my words. Say, hey, here's some of the challenges in our practice. If you're not prepared to deal with this, or this is the same reason you're leaving the other place, don't come here.
Right.
So I think that's about getting clear for yourself, and then having a clear. Just being clear with the person you're interviewing that that's what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
Then you kind of go through the process of the interview, and that's like dating.
Yeah.
That's like dating, like the apps. You got to swipe up, swipe left.
Team members,
and I would argue harder.
Yeah.
Because it's more painful to switch in and out of a dentist in your practice than it is to switch in and out an assistant or a front office team. A hygienist, a little bit more painful to do that.
You need people that have the license.
Yeah. So with dentists, so I think you got to go through the interview process, and it's literally no different than dating. Okay, that's how I look at it.
Personality fit.
Personality fit. They got to be at the right stage of their life. Yeah. They got to have, I don't ask people where they want to be 10 years from now, because I don't expect anybody to be with me that long, really. I don't go into it expecting that. I kind of ask, where do you want to be a couple of years from now or 3 years from now? Because that's kind of my hopeful timeline of how long we can keep somebody, depending on what we're bringing them in for.
You did hire someone pregnant last
I did. Look, again, number one, you're not legally not allowed to deny them.
No.
And number two, it was a great cultural fit.
Right.
And so, if I had to wait an extra 3 months.
I think a lot of people, especially men, that would have a hard time with that. Knowing that they were going to be out on maternity leave.
Yeah. Or the bigger part is not that they're going to be out on maternity leave. Are they going to come back?
Right.
And are they going to come back at full force? And I had those fears, you know, but you take a risk.
Yeah.
That's kind of that. One of the other things I think in the interview process that not enough people do is they don't ask to see their work. And so I ask everybody I interview, can you send me some of your work? And if they can't send me some of the work, I generally speaking say they're not the right fit for me. If they have a good reason why they can't send you some of the work, like they work me like a dog and I don't have this, we don't have x-rays or cameras in our practice, I might be like, okay, but how do you stay? My thing would be like, why do you stay there? But as to see work, and x-rays are a non-negotiable. You should have before and after x-rays of root canals, of extraction grafts, whatever procedure, literally whatever procedure you're doing, you should have a showcase book. You know, like if you're going to hire a wedding photographer, don't you expect to see some examples of their work?
Yeah.
So if I'm going to hire a dentist, I want to see they're real, right? I want to see kind of what they're doing.
It also shows that how they want to brand themselves, and that's important for your practice because
it may be important for your practice.
You know, if that's what if you're looking to add procedures or even just get their name out there so that the community trusts them.
Yeah. If you want to maintain your reputation, really is what it boils down to.
Right.
You know, if you care about that.
Yeah.
Some people don't, and that's okay. You know, it's a money game for them, and that's totally fine. Some days I wish it was that for me.
Yeah.
You know, so ask to see documented work, and then the next step is the actual interview.
Working interview.
Yeah, I like to even bring them in to meet them, to have them meet some of the team members or key team members. You know, kind of do that kind of thing, and then we progress to a working interview where we'll have them come in for half a day with just a couple of patients. We'll do a basic restorative case and a single crown, or depending on the skill set, maybe an extraction graft, that kind of thing. And that way, my lead assistant can work with them, our team can work with them, and we kind of see.
I think that's more than just clinical too, because working alongside someone's different than just talking to somebody. Yeah. So I think that's a good way to see if they fit the culture, because if your team does not like them, they will all run to you like a herd.
I've had a great associate who is clinically excellent.
Yeah.
But couldn't get along with team members.
Right.
You know, and he didn't fit he fit the clinical culture of the practice. He didn't fit the personality of the practice. And that was a recipe for not working.
Right.
So yeah. And then the last thing, and I think another thing that's kind of forgotten, is you got to outline your success path. You know, what is your 3-month strategy, a 6-month strategy, your 1-year strategy? Where would you like to see them focus on? And where would you like them to be at the end of 3 months, at the end of 6 months, at the end of 12 months? What would success look like to you? That's clinically, that's your personality, personality or your communication skills, and that's also economically, you know. And I think as an associate, all of these things should also apply. You know, you should ask about a success path. What's my goal? What would be successful for you in the first 90 days if I came and joined your practice? The first 6 months, the first year, what would success look like? And that way you can decide. You know, hey, they may say, you know what, it's all about production, and you may say, you know what, that's not for me. Or they may say, hey, listen, it's not about production. You might go, I got bills to pay. I mean, I need to.
We just like to come to work for fun.
Yeah, you know, any number of things, right?
Yeah.
So I think the associate process should be 2 ways. I think the associates should do a better job of weeding out who they don't want to be with and put themselves in the right fit. And I think the owner dentist should do a better job of being clear and leading and knowing why and how and what they want to do with all of this.
Yeah, well, I think that was a great thing to answer all of the questions people have about adding an associate to
that's some of the questions. Are you kidding me?
Is there anything else you want to add to it?
No, just again, listen, if you can leave us a review for our podcast, if you leave us a review on Google for 3D Dentists, if you can help us spread the message of this podcast, help us spread the message of 3D Dentists. You know, it's a family-run operation, and we are family here, and so friends and family.
Yeah.
So
friends that turn into family.
And so we would love your help in helping us grow 3D Dentists so that we can preserve the individual dentist and continue to make our profession so amazing. We'll see you guys next week.